Alrighty guys, I'm going to go ahead and present the chapter 2.3 PowerPoint. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Chapter 2.3, the New England Colonies. Learning objectives. Explain how the desire for religious freedom led to the settlement of New England colonies. Identify the significance of the Mayflower Compact. Describe how conflicts over religion and politics were resolved in colonial New England. Identify reasons for conflict between settlers and Native Americans. Describe the daily life and the economy in New England colonies. Key terms: Pilgrims, Established Church, Persecution, Mayflower Compact, Precedent, Thanksgiving, Puritans, General Court, Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, Religious Tolerance, Sabbath, Town Meetings. Seeking religious freedom. After 2 hard months at sea, the colonists on board the small sailing ship were relieved to see the shores of New England. Still, there were no European colonies for hundreds of miles. During this section, we will be speaking and talking about religion in Europe and the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims crossed the Atlantic in search of religious freedom in ships such as this. If you look at the ship, you can tell how big it is, and these are the ships that many explorers would use whenever they were traveling across the ocean. The Plymouth Colony. A group of separatists decided to return to England. Along with some other English people who were not separatists, they won a charter to set up the colony in the northern part of Virginia. Like colonists who followed them, the Pilgrims' enterprise was started and funded privately in the hopes that it would earn a profit. In September of 1620, more than 100 men, women, and children set sail aboard a small ship called Mayflower. The journey was long and difficult. During this section, we will be talking about a new pledge to govern the colony and religious motivation and religious freedom. In November of 1620, English separatists on the Mayflower, shown here, arrived at Presentaion, Massachusetts, to start new lives free of religious persecution. Overcoming hardships in Plymouth. The Pilgrims built their settlement on the site of Native American village that had been abandoned because of disease. The colonists even found baskets filled with corn that they were able to eat. Overcoming hardships in Plymouth. We will talk about a cold winter in Plymouth and how Native Americans offer assistance. Faced with little time before the onset of winter, the Pilgrims built proper shelters as quickly as they could build. Above you can see how all the men are working together to build. The women are helping gather food and other supplies, while the children are helping keeping the builders hydrated. Forming Massachusetts Bay Colony. The migration to Massachusetts Bay during the 1630s was led by a religious group known as the Puritans. Unlike the Pilgrims, the Puritans did not want to separate entirely from the Church of England. Instead, they hoped to reform the church by introducing simpler forms of worship. They wanted to do away with many practices inherited from the Roman Catholic Church, such as organ music, finely decorated houses of worship, and special clothing for priests. During this section, we will be talking about the reasons for immigration to Massachusetts and a greater say in government. Forming Massachusetts Bay. In this artist's rendering, Puritans row a ship off the English shore that will carry them across the ocean. Draw conclusions. Look at each person on the boat. What is the artist suggesting about their motives? Forming Massachusetts Bay, the New England Colonies. The timeline of settlement. 1620, Plymouth Colony was settled by Pilgrims wishing to escape religious persecution in England. In 1630, Massachusetts Bay Colony was settled by Puritans wishing to escape religious persecution in England. In 1623, New Hampshire began as a group of coastal settlements. In 1636, Connecticut was founded as a colony with strict limits on government power. And Rhode Island was founded as a colony where church and state were separated. This chart offers a snapshot of the people and economy of New England colonies. Analyze the graphs. What does the graph of imports and exports tell you about the economy of the New England colonies during the 1700s? People first settled by about 50 pilgrims. Thousands came later. Most were Puritans who wanted to reform the Church of England. Persecution by King Charles I in 1600s caused many to leave England. In the economy, 80% of the population, which was involved in subsistence farming, was agriculture. And then their imports and exports. You can tell that they did spend more on imports than they did exports. New colonies form over religious differences. The Puritan leaders did not like anyone to question their religious beliefs or the way that the colony was governed. Usually, discontented colonists were forced to leave. Some colonists who left Massachusetts founded other colonies in New England. In this section, we will talk about a new colony with limited government, a new relationship between religion and government, and a woman's voice calls for religious freedom. Thomas Hooker and his followers congregate at the spot in the forest where they have chosen for the new settlement of Hartford in 1636. In this picture, you can see that all the pilgrims and settlers are kneeled on their knees while the priest does say a prayer. From Massachusetts Bay, settlers fanned out across New England. Some built trading and fishing villages along the coast north of Boston. Port towns with good harbors were ideal for the fishing industry and also lured trading ships, building the area's economy. In 1680, the king would make some of the coastal settlements into a separate colony called New Hampshire. During this section, we will talk about the mistrust and more settlers leads to conflict and King Philip's War. During the 1600s, settlements to the north of Boston thrived and eventually became a colony of New Hampshire. Here we see a New Hampshire couple at the door of their farmhouse. Towns of New England. Puritans believed that people should worship and tend to local matters as a community. As a result, New England became a land of tightly knit towns. During this section, we will talk about religious practice, the importance of local government, the environment influences economic activity, and Puritans leave a lasting legacy. Puritans regularly held town meetings and meeting houses such as this. Fishing helped grow the New England economy throughout the 1700s. Analyze graphs approximately how many fish were caught in 1731 and approximately how many fish did they catch that year weigh. So you can see that the approximate number of fish caught and the exported weight is doubled than the number of fish caught. Most of New England's major towns were located on harbors along the coast. Analyze maps. What does this location suggest about their economies? So you can see in orange, there is the New England colonies. And in the striped orange is the area claimed by New York and New Hampshire. Now with these colonies, you can see that they are near the ocean. Hence, the last chart, speaking of the fish, the pounds they caught, and how much they were exported for. And then here is just a few questions for the quiz. These aren't anything that you guys really need to worry about. Just a little extra help and review for you guys. I'm going to stop this here.